you everyone for joining this evening for the next episode of our biweekly webinar. I'm Dr. George Ozoude, and we actually have Dr. Adebayo Fasanya on the call. He's off camera because he's probably running the code right now, helping save lives. So he's still working on call right now. I'll be running the webinar for tonight. He may pop in and out, so just to be aware of that. So I'm the CEO. We're both the co-hosts. I'm the CEO of Time Health Capital, and it's a private investment real asset syndication company that focuses on financial freedom and autonomy for physicians. And I've been investing since 2016 with about $1.5 million of capital invested in both a GP and an LP, over 25 deals in assets ranging from residential and commercial multifamily to medical office buildings, agriculture, mineral rights, which is a subset offshoot of oil and gas. I've been a co-GP on 3 multifamily acquisitions totaling $50 million in assets under management. Co-founder of the Real Asset Docs coaching program with Bio, who I would normally let introduce himself, but since he's working right now, I'm just gonna let you guys know about a little bit about him. He's CEO of Dr. Breathe Easy. He has been investing the same amount of time since 2016, started as an LP, but quickly worked his way up into doing deals as a GP and also accumulating his own private portfolio of multifamily deals, self-storage, started doing syndications with oil and gas. He has well over $160 million of assets under management and a bunch of experience both mentoring, coaching other physicians, other healthcare providers, other busy professionals to do the same. With that, I want to introduce our guest tonight. We welcome Dr. Kyle Stephenson to the webinar. Now, Kyle is a colleague of mine through orthopedic surgery, sports medicine. We both have the same training, same fellowship training. He's based out of Indianapolis, and we also share in common that we're real estate investors. Kyle is a real estate investor, a syndicator. He serves as managing partner for Sharp Investments, and I've known him for about a year now after connecting through the small network of other, not only physicians who do real estate, but orthopedic surgeons who do real estate. And I've been glad to talk shop with him, whether it be asking about an interesting MRI or an interesting value-add investment opportunity. He is the host of an up-and-coming podcast. It's called the Assets and Orthopedics podcast, of which I was a recent guest, where he looks to educate and med students and residents and physicians on real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Over the last few months, I've come to learn more about Kyle's investment goals and his accomplishments thus far in the space. And that includes large multifamily, self-storage, and now into extended stay hotels, which is what we're going to be learning a little bit about tonight. So I'm really excited to give him the platform now and open it up for questions and answers from the audience. Kyle, I know that was a higher level introduction, but I would love if you can just tell the audience, who's a lot of us are also physicians and healthcare providers, about your journey.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. And I really appreciate you guys having me on here. It's phenomenal what you guys are doing. So yeah, we appreciate it. So my background, I am from Indianapolis, Indiana, and that's where I reside today. I'm back here. I went to medical school down in Florida, in Sarasota, Bradenton, Florida, at a DO school. Went to Michigan State for my residency program in orthopedic surgery for 5 years, and then I did a sports medicine fellowship out in Boston, where I worked with, it was at New England Baptist Hospital, working with the Boston Celtics, Harvard, Merrimack, a couple other schools. At that time, I was investing in the normal, the paper assets, the stocks and bonds, and through residency and training, I was reading White Coat Investor, and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Probably, I continue to read those both each year just to get my mind. Never knew how to do anything about it. I knew that I was going to put my money and max out my Roth IRA, do the normal things that we should be doing in residency that people have told us. Didn't know much about real estate investing, didn't know much about any other investing. So I did that, maxed out my Roth IRA for residency, did my fellowship, started my practice in orthopedics and back in Indianapolis, my hometown. I did that for 4 years. And then I went to Charleston, South Carolina for 2 years after COVID. So 2 years ago, my wife and I decided, let's try the beach. Let's get out of Midtown, or excuse me, Midwest, middle of the United States, and go try something different. Found a good sports job down there. Third kid on the way now, and decided let's get back to family at this point. Beach is great, but family help is more important. My wife stays at home with kiddos. It's nice. She needs the mother help and mother-in-law help. So anyway, it's nice to be back here. We found another job back in Indy that I love, and I feel like this is my place that I'll be for as long as I practice. So I'm excited about that. Real estate journey. So again, going back to residency, Roth IRA, paper assets, started doing limited partner deals. My financial advisor found him through my dad, knew a guy, smart guy, made a lot of money. So I talked to them. They had a financial advisor for me, became a buddy, and I just trusted him. Basically, every month I was giving him my money, just handing it over. 30% of my money was going to him. And basically, I just trusted him. I said, put it in whatever assets you think are right. And it's all stocks. And he was doing that. And I just didn't have a clue where that was going necessarily. I followed it. I thought it was great. I trusted him. He hasn't burned me yet, but I didn't do my own due diligence. I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was doing all those things. And I was like, how do I get started on my own investments? So that's when I really started digging in deep on more investments, realizing I needed to understand more and not just blindly get my money. Found a couple limited partner deals, one of which is commercial building in Indianapolis for Amazon. Thought that's a no-brainer. All right, we'll put 50,000 in that. And that's where I really started to learn the limited partner aspect of things, that I could put money in. It's a 5-year plan, five-year deal. It was cool to drive by it and see that, hey, I own a building. This is neat. You could tell people about that. And so that's when I really got a taste of limited partner, of real estate. And then fast forward, did a few more deals. This is all 21 that really started. So this is only 2-3 years ago. Did about 6 or 7 limited partner deals. I started listening to more podcasts. I would tell you that Semi-Retired MD podcast was a really good one that I liked. They're more big on bees, but I really started listening to them and I was like, okay, they're talking about, they read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and within 5 years, they were financially free. They stopped working, basically. One of them, the husband became it's a husband-wife hospitalists. The husband became a real estate professional status, or got real estate professional status. She was working like 2 nights a month and they were traveling the world. I was like, how do I do that? So that's when I really started to take action. I then read the book, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich, by Dr. Tom Burns, who I just had on my podcast last week, 2 weeks ago. And when I read it for the third time, I looked in there, the quotes at the very beginning of the book. George Ozoude is one of the quotes, which is the coolest thing ever. So anyways, reading that book then pushed me over the top. And that's why I was like, okay, I got to do something. So my first action of being a general partner, quote unquote GP, I bought my first single family home in November 2022. I did a BRRRR method. And for those of you who are not aware, BRRRR is buy, rehab, rent. Gosh, I just got it mixed up. Refinance and then repeat. That's right. Yep. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So I did that. Bought a $70,000 place, rehabbed it, all in for 120. It was worth 150. So the bank loaned me 80%. I pulled all my money out. So now I own it. Now I basically have no money into it, and the renters are paying the mortgage. I don't make a ton of money on it, but it was a great first start, and I still have the house. It was only 2 years ago. Did that. Then I bought a lot that we built the home on, so we have a midterm rental with that one. And then the third, we just did a short-term rental last year to get the cost segregation and do the short-term rental loophole. So basically, we had those 3 single-family homes, and I was like, man, this is going to take me a long time to get to where I want to be, I think.
Same realization myself.
Did you? Yeah. And I had a buddy who was he had like 33 unit, and he was doing well, making more money per month. And I was like, all right, I got to do something. So I actually joined the Rod Cleef Warrior Group. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with him. He has a podcast called the Lifetime Cash Flow Podcast. And really a lot of it is great. It's good education for sure. Learning all about multifamily, how to be a GP on multifamily. Probably the biggest thing I learned from it so far is just the networking aspect. Like learning the nuts and bolts of it is fantastic. And I love that part of it. The underwriting and understanding that stuff. That's good. You got to do that, but you got to put in the work for that. The networking has been phenomenal as well. And that's what I did. I networked. And then October of this past year, got together with a group got my own investors and became GP on a deal, 176 units in Savannah, Georgia. And it's going, and then
Nice.
continue on, fast forward just a couple more months. Within that group, I met two other guys who just met them organically in that group. One of the guys is a physician who basically retired after 2 years because of his investments. Real smart guy. And then another guy named Jason. Met those two guys, and they were doing extended stays, and they were doing it through a more small. They weren't doing it through flags or a franchise. It was through. He had a couple of 30 units. Was about to buy a 109 unit, and so I liked what they were doing. Started getting involved with them, connected really well, and then just started taking off and just understanding it. So in November, we bought a 109 unit in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, rehabbed, and that's going well. We're filling it up as we speak, so it's been great. And then in January, this past January, we just bought another hotel, extended stay hotel in Lafayette, Louisiana, and it's a 120 unit, came with a 40 unit apartment complex and an 8,000 square foot retail space. And then we're going to buy the lot adjacent to all that and do some cool things with it. So that's really my journey. Short lived. I really just got started 2021, so not long ago, but it's been fun. I'm learning a ton about this stuff, and
That's quite impressive for that amount of time. That's quite the resume already. Before we jump into questions about extended stay in particular, I was just wondering what was the impetus why even kind of want to go that route as an orthopedic surgeon, right? What was kind of the reason that compelled you to go this route?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think during COVID, a lot of things happened with a lot of people. And for me, my mentality with COVID, as an orthopedic surgeon, we weren't in the hospital. They didn't want us to go run the floor, run codes, things like that. So I had a little bit more time to do research and start thinking of things. And I was doing a ton of research on COVID and what I thought about things like that. And a lot of it to me was getting a little too political, and I was just getting frustrating with that aspect. And I don't know what hit me, but at some point I realized at that time that I was paying way too much in taxes, and I didn't love where they're going. I didn't love doing it. And so I try to figure out what's the best way to minimize my taxes. And that's really what drove me to real estate.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can totally resonate with a lot of that. It took me some amount of time in practice to realize I need something else, something more than just my identity as a doctor, my income as a doctor.
Yep.
I would love to get your kind of definition on what extended stay is. It may not be obvious to everybody, but
Okay.
what is it? How does it differ from a regular hotel? Why is it compelling as an investment based on what it is?
Yeah, great question. So in general, extended stay hotels are hotels where people stay longer than your typical weekly, nightly time span, right? So with our hotels, average stay is about 29 days, if that tells you anything. So the way I think about it, and I think this simplifies it pretty well, the big chain hotels that you think about, the Hyatts, Hiltons, they're the big high-end hotels. I would compare those to more of like an Airbnb, all right, if you think about single family homes. Then your multifamily apartment complexes, I would compare to your single family long-term rentals. I think of extended stay hotels as your midterm rentals. So your travel nurses that stay for 3 months at a time, insurance puts somebody in a house or in a hotel for a couple months when their house got demolished by a natural disaster, something like that. Extended stay hotels, why are they beneficial? An actual hotel has about a 70% expense ratio. So when you think about it, they have employees that work 24/7. They have people that work the front desk, they have the cleaners, they have somebody there at all times. Their expenses are really high. When we were at our all-inclusive in Dominican Republic, I was looking around, I'm like, these expenses have to be insane. And so that's the big thing, 70 something percent. So your margins are really low with hotels. With extended stay hotels, however, the people working there are only working from 9 to 5. Front desk people, 9 to 5, that's it. Then it shuts off. The cleaners, there's not people coming in and out every day necessarily. You have more long-term rentals from, like I said, average stays about 30 days. So those people, you don't have to clean it every single day. You're not cleaning every room every day. Those people are basically living there for 3 months. And if they want you to clean their room, you can do it, right? You can have them do it, but they're not doing it all the time. So that's one of the best things about it is the margin is really low. Cap rates have been becoming a big issue. We'll get into that later. I don't want to talk about that right now. Extended stays. What else? Yeah, it seems if you look at articles, there's a good article I just pulled up recently from 2023, and extended stay hotels continue to gain in popularity. It's July of 2023. Every single big hotel chain is getting into extended stays. They all have a branch now that's getting into extended stays because it's become so popular. Could you argue that COVID pushed that a little bit? Maybe. But Extended Stay America is one of the brands that's been around for a long time, and they continue to pop up everywhere. They continue to do really well. And yeah,
I think
so
we even talked about it. We said when we looked at some of this, the trend actually started before COVID,
yeah,
right? The popularity of extended stays. What's the macro behind that? Like you mentioned some of the demand coming from travel, healthcare,
yep.
natural disaster placement.
I think travel
What's the
healthcare. I
Mhm.
think travel healthcare is part of it, but I think it's a small part of it, and that's why the trend was there before. I'll give you an example for what we're doing. We have contractors. That's where we're pushing towards contractors, and that's a big thing. Those guys need a place to stay, a nice place to stay for months at a time. When I say contractors, think about Duke Energy or ExxonMobil. We're down in Louisiana, and that's what we get. Ton of ExxonMobil, ton of the gas and oil companies sending their guys down, and they're trying to find places to stay. So a lot of trades, I think, are doing it. So it is a travel workforce entity.
Mhm.
And then the travel healthcare, that's what we think of because we're in the healthcare space. And that might be short lived, who knows? But the other stuff, travel workforce is a big part of it.
Gotcha. And that kind of was my next question. Where do you see the macro heading? Like what kind of gives us any like idea of where it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Are they're going to clearly the bigs are getting into it.
Right.
So is it all corporate travel or is there other head tailwinds, I should say, pushing it
Yeah,
in
I think it's
popularity?
going to get better because of the low expenses that's helping everything. I can't really think of job wise necessarily. People are working more remote, and somebody like you doing locums, you could easily stay in extended stay. It's a lot cheaper to stay here. People leave you alone. It's your own place. That's nice. But I think the margin is a big part of it. And that's why I think the big hotel chains are getting into it because yeah, it's insane. Having a 70 something percent expense ratio is hard to overcome. And then you add the Expedias and the online travel agencies on top of that, they're taking 15 to 20%. It's hard to make money. What we're doing with Boardwalk Suites, that's the name of our brand. We're doing a lot of direct marketing. We're doing extended stay, or excuse me, we're doing Expedia and booking.com and using those. We're using Facebook Marketplace. We're doing everything we can to put it out there. But most of it is direct bookings. And then we're getting contracts with ExxonMobil and some contractors for gas and oil, which has been phenomenal. And they're gonna blow us up. They're gonna get us fully occupied, which is huge. So just getting in with those companies. But yeah, it's amazing. If I can share.
Yeah. And then while you pull that up, I was thinking there's obviously the mechanics of the expenses being lower than significantly lower than the income is very attractive. And usually what we can see with assets that have better return profiles is that there's some increased risk associated with it. But I'm almost
Yeah.
wondering if that's not such the case here. Is there a higher risk because of this higher return profile, or is it just purely it's just such good dynamics on the balance sheet
Yeah.
with it?
I think from the research I've seen, risk part of it could be with hotels in general. I mean, it's really with multifamily too, but you see a lot. It all depends on who your tenants are, a lot of it. And when you think about extended stays, you think about the lower socioeconomic tenant. Okay. And so that makes it more dangerous. Jason, my business partner, excuse me, he's the CEO. He started in Las Vegas. That's where he lives. And so he started extended stays in Las Vegas. And that's really what his green light was. So the reason he started all this is because during COVID, the strip basically shut down. All the hotels went down to 7% occupancy. His extended stays were just off the strip, but they stayed completely open because they were extended stays. People were staying for long term. They were basically living there. So he stayed at 100% occupied. So that's when his light bulb went off and he's okay, this is where it's at. I see a lot of promise here. In saying that, he was in Vegas, and that's, you can deal with some interesting tenants, drugs, prostitution, all that stuff. And once it gets infiltrated, it's hard to get it out of there. His big thing on that is no smoking in the rooms. People can't come in and out of rooms. You can't have traffic coming in and out of your rooms. All right, that's a red flag. Does that make sense?
Now, could you, to me, maybe someone else understands, but could you expound on that?
Just meaning we know that there's two people that live there. Those two people can come in and out of the room. You can't have
Okay.
random people coming in and out of the rooms.
Got it.
Yep. Limit that. He's got security guard. He's got a front staff there
Right.
from 9 to 5, and then security guard is there through the night. So doing different things to minimize the bad actors coming in does help a lot. And then other risk rates, we talked about that, and I think that's a big thing that's going to kill a lot of deals potentially when we talk about like multifamily.
Yeah.
So obviously the exit cap rate is such a massive thing that we talk about, right? That's an assumption that we take on when we take on a multifamily, when we underwrite a multifamily deal. And so as the interest rates continue to stay high or don't drop, those cap rates just slowly creep up. And if the cap rates do expand, then that's going to ruin a lot of deals, right? It ruins that exit assumption. And
Right.
so with the extended stays, the cap rates we're getting are 10 to 12%, sometimes 14%. And so it has nowhere to go but down. It's just, the risk seems really low. It's very, conservative underwriting, but the risk has been really low. Now we're getting these for $20,000 a door. We're getting them really cheap. And it's not that the buildings are bad, the bones are good. It's these owners that kind of desert the place a little bit. Older Indian owners that's been in the family for a long time. They don't want to run it anymore. Their kids don't want to run it. They just want to be done with it. And so you look at look at the reviews, and the reviews are 2.3 stars, 2.5 stars. There's bugs, infestation, there's all these things. They just stop running the place. And so they're selling it for dirt cheap because they just need to get out of it. It needs a good owner to come in and run it.
Is that a value add opportunity, or is it just making sure things run smoothly as is, or?
Both. Yeah, we're renovating them. They're exterior corridor places, which is not bad, but think about like old Red Roof Inn that has the old carpet and it's not a hard value add because most of these buildings are concrete and a lot of it's surfacey stuff, which is good, but light value add. But yeah, it's running it correctly. It's having good management in place and running it correctly. And that's one of the easiest value adds, honestly, if you can do that.
What is it like now that more big brands are coming in? Is that kind of creating competition? Are they acquiring some of these existing extended stays or hotels, or are they building? Because I've seen a lot of just new builds in
Yep.
your choice America. Where are they coming in, and how's that affecting you
Yeah,
guys?
I think there is going to be a lot of competition. Yeah. And so for us as a small brand, we definitely have to be strategic on where we are. We're not going to go to the big cities by any means. We're picking good cities that we want to make sure they have over 50,000 population within 3 to 5 miles. So they're good sized cities, but we're not going for the big metro cities. And ultimately, if we get a big enough portfolio, if one of those big brands wants to come in and buy you out, then fantastic. We might be okay with that. So
cool. As if anyone has questions, feel free. I want to open it up to the audience to come off mute, come on camera, or you can post a question in the chat. I'll be following along the chat just to see and get your questions out there. But while we wait, I want to ask Kyle, kind of in general, or someone who's a passive investor and likes and understands the opportunity in this asset class, or if they're even a general, have aspirations to be a general partner and franchise and partner with one of these big brands. Is that something that's open and available for folks? Are there franchising opportunities? And is that kind of something that compares with what you're doing, which is more of a private placement? Compare and contrast those for the audience. Yeah, Mikhail.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're telling me.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Say
All
the
right. Yeah,
question
I
one
was
more time.
just
Yeah.
asking about what are the opportunities, if you're aware, just for investors to invest as like a franchise, owning one of these bigger box brands as a franchise versus how it compares to a private placement for something that
Right.
you're doing along the lines of what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Good question. I don't have any personal experience with any of that, obviously, with the, or not obviously, I don't have any personal experience with the hotel brands necessarily, the flags, they call it. One of my partners does, JD. He was a general surgeon in residency, bought his first hotel. And again, it's a franchise, so they take a percentage of it. And you got to do the PIPs. So you got to do the improvement plan every 5 to 7 years, whatever that is. But he, I think, bought a second one when he was a second year, 2 years out of residency, and quit medicine altogether. Realized he would be paying a lot less taxes as a real estate investor than a physician doing bariatrics. And he's been doing these big hotel brands for years, and he likes it. Can you invest? Anybody can invest. It takes a lot of capital, but I would have to ask him the details of that. I would tell you that I
Sure.
know that he's getting out. They're selling those, and he's jumping on board with us 100% because he sees that the ceiling, I think, is higher with this.
Right.
Again, with those brands, it's a franchise, just like any other franchise. They take a percentage of your top line. They make you do PIPs every, I want to say 7 years potentially, where you have to do their improvement plan to make it up to their standards out of your own pocket. There's just a lot of headaches that come with it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I thought the same. It's just how any franchise would compare to starting it on your own.
Yeah.
Actually, my girlfriend just literally today closed on a dog daycare business. And
I,
all of last year, she was back and forth between working with a up and coming franchise out in the East Coast who wanted to expand. And then when she looked at the terms of the FDD, I'm learning about the franchise world, which is their contract, like standard contract.
mhm.
Just saw a lot of things in there that just really didn't align with her, obviously. And like you mentioned, a lot of fees, a lot of additional fees that you have to
Mhm.
really be aware of, have an attorney look at.
Yes.
In general, it's probably the same challenges you would find in any business, any asset class. So she decided to start her own, kind of go private versus, yeah. So we
Good.
celebrated a little bit earlier.
Oh, that's
So
great. Yeah, good for her.
yeah, yeah, go for it.
No, I was just gonna, to your point, there are a ton of fees. And I think that you just would feel that somebody's thumb is on you at all times,
Yeah,
making sure you're pushing the right buttons and doing the right things. And obviously, you want your business to succeed, no question. But somebody wants your business to succeed much more than you do. And they're making sure of that. Yeah, it'd be tough.
we have a question from Shola. How did you find these deals? Or in general, how do you find these deals? Are they off market or are they by a wholesaler?
Good question. So, my role in this, as you guys know, with multifamily, extended stay hotels, whatever it is, it's a team effort. And I found the guys that complimented me on the team, or I complimented them. I'll put it that way. And my buddy Jason, he's the mind. He can underwrite and do all the things, and he found the deals. He's been doing research for the last 2 3 years on where to find these extended stay hotels, and Louisiana has been a good find for us because of, like I said, contractors are a big client for us, and so he found the deals through a broker that he knows, and they're off market deals. The broker's literally calling them every day with different ones because Jason basically said, "This is my investment criteria. This is what I'm looking for. Find me these in this area, Sun Belt, whatever it is." And it gives that broker truly a focus to know that, hey, if I come to you with these deals, like this is what you're looking for. And then he's closed on a couple of those deals. So now the broker's coming back to him for more. That's how he's finding them. And I'm helping him with that, but he's been doing all that legwork prior to. So
I,
yeah,
I feel like
broker
that.
off market deal.
And I feel like that highlights the importance of what you mentioned before, as far as networking and just establishing relationships. I'm sure it helped that Jason has a track record in that space.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He started out doing his own deals with extended stay, or was it also pooled capital or syndicated, or What was that?
Yeah, he was doing JV deals before. Yep,
Big.
you got it.
And
Yep.
so again,
Yep.
networking and putting yourself out there, probably going to events, joining different clubs, different meetups, and then getting known as a person who is interested in this asset class, has done deals in this asset class.
Yep.
And then finally, when brokers start bringing you stuff and you start actually executing on them, now they know you as a doer, right? And I think that's goes to the point of this is a relationship business. So yeah, getting out there and rubbing shoulders with the brokers, find out where they go, find out where they hang out, and understand how you can get on their radar and get their attention, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So yeah, so how do you find your deals? And so yeah, anyone else with questions? Want to keep this going? Questions about extended stay? Kyle, I had a question about return profiles for LPs. We talked about it at the
Yep.
project level. What does that kind of trickle down to for LPs who invest compared to a multifamily syndication?
Yeah, it's the exact same, honestly. The Baton Rouge, the first one, the 109 unit, is just a JV deal essentially. With there's 4 of us involved there, and then this last one has been a syndication. We did seller financing for a big part of it. We got a 120 unit plus all that stuff for 2.3 million. Like we got a nice deal on it. Seller financing for most of it, and then we got about 8 to 10 investors, a fairly small group, I think. And yeah, very similar to a multifamily waterfall. We're doing pref equity, and then we're doing a 60-40 split because we didn't take any fees up front. So we're not doing any acquisition fees or any of that. So we want our investors to obviously make the money, but instead of a 70-30, we did a 60-40 just so the GPs can get something on it for doing a lot of the work.
Gotcha. And so you said there was a pref return with that, and that looks similar to multifamily.
Yeah,
So
we did a 10% pref equity. I think most multifamily, from what I've seen, has been 8.
yeah, I would say 8 or
Yep,
lower.
yep,
6 or
7 to 8. Yeah, but with the Baton Rouge, like you're cash flow positive when you have 33 of the units occupied. So basically, less than a third of the units occupied, you're cash flow positive. So you fill that thing up 80, 90% occupied, you're making pretty good money on it.
Yeah. So the break even is a lot lower.
Very low. Yep. Yep.
That's impressive. Any other benefits? We see tax benefits, depreciation,
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. Good question. So the tax benefits for me personally are actually greater because, and I learned this, gosh, only 4 months ago. I don't know about you guys, but I have a CPA who is a buddy of mine, really smart guy, works for a good company. And the more I've learned about real estate these last few years, the more I learn about read the tax books, the Tom Wheelwright books, the more I feel like I've educated my CPA, and I've thought about leaving him many times. So I'm like, I just want a real estate CPA. I think now he seems to be on board with things, but that's been a long, frustrating thing as well. But we had the discussion. So with hotels, you don't need a real estate professional status to get the depreciation benefit, the bonus depreciation benefit for hotels. And because it's more of an active investor role, more so than multifamily, you don't have to be a real estate professional status. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
Obviously, we know about the whole short-term rental loophole
with
functions.
Airbnb,
It's looked at as active participation, material participation.
yep.
We have a question from Roberta. Come off mute.
Hi. Yes,
Hello.
I'm trying to find out, is extended stay available for international investments? I am a part of an investment group that is raising a $5 million fund, and we're planning to do our investments internationally in emerging markets. And so we've been looking at hotels, primarily looking at some of the, I guess, the franchise more. I think you've mentioned it, reference it as a franchise. But I like this model because we're looking at a market that really needs long-term opportunities for rentals.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just curious if is this something that's available for international markets?
Great question. For us personally, it's not out there. What we're doing, we only have essentially 3 in our portfolio right now. We're obviously expanding, but for us personally, we're not overseas. We're not international. How would you find an opportunity that is international? That's a great question. I don't know. Obviously, the big brands will be out there.
Okay. But could how could I connect in a way that will allow us to evaluate extended stay as an option for international? I guess we could find the property.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Oh, and
We're
how
just
would you be able to create extended stay, like make it an extended
exactly.
stay hotel?
Yes, yes, yes.
So seeing like you're just talking about basically, are the tenants going to be there? Are the
Sounds
numbers
like
going
the
to work for you guys? I'm a
the
little
macro.
confused on.
Okay,
Talking about kind of the macroeconomic opportunity. Is there a demand for it, or
I already know there is. I'm just trying to figure out how could I, if I know the market I want to go to, I know they need long-term stay rental opportunities. I heard that loud and clear from the due diligence that we've conducted. And instead of a short-term hotel type,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a great opportunity for an
Got it.
extended stay. So I recognize that opportunity. I'm just trying to
Okay.
figure out, like, how do I connect to evaluate if extended stay is even an option for us to extend to that market?
Yeah, I would do all the research you can on extended stays. We could talk, and I could get you connected with my business partner to see about evaluating that area, to see about running it. The big things again are, what do you need? You basically need front office staff, right? You need that from 9 to 5. You need similar to what you would need with multifamily. You'll need property manager, handyman, things like that, and they could be on site. Comparing it to a hotel, again, you don't need them 24/7. You need it from 9 to 5, and so that's the beauty of it, is you're going to drop your expenses from 70% way down to 40% or even less. And just figuring out how to do that. I think the other part of it is figuring out how to market it as an extended stay and who to market it to. All those things you'd have to play with in your market to see what works. Basically, what we did with marketing is we put it on Airbnb, Furnish Finder, our own direct site, Expedia, all of them, to see which hits. And when we learn which ones are hitting the most, we're really pushing those. And that's what we're marketing. We're pushing those even more with paid advertisement. We're getting out there. So that's when we connected with contractors, because contractors have been huge down in that area. I think the other thing you need to think about is, who are the tenants in that area? It's international. You do the research on, is it travel workforce? Who are your tenants going to be? And then just market to them.
Okay,
So
great. Thank
did
you.
that answer it?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry for the confusion.
No problem.
and then let's see, we have another question from John. This is, how are you dealing with competition from short-term rentals? So are these tenants also looking at just individual single-family homes, or those type of options and just staying longer? Or is that not really a same avatar?
Yeah, it's a good question. And again, I compare this more to midterm rentals, and you could do midterm rental or short-term rental on Airbnb. It's a little bit of a different beast in the fact that this is not like vacation style area, nothing like that. We've made it nice. We've renovated it nice, but we've definitely marketed it and pushed it to the travel workforce. And is there competition out there? Of course, yeah, there's definitely competition. But Airbnb has been great for us. We've put it on Airbnb, and we're getting a lot of hits. And again, they're staying for months at a time. Yeah.
What are they getting in a extended stay that they would not be able to get in a short-term single-family house?
Single family house, they're definitely getting a lot more. We're doing it for cheaper. So that's the big difference. So we have kitchenettes. So in our rooms, it's a typical extended stay. I'd say it's nicer. The website that we have is www.boardwalksuites.com. And you can pull that up. They're nice rooms. We have nice LED mirror and little kitchenettes with a refrigerator. And so if you have an Airbnb, you're going to have all the amenities you want, right? You can cook and clean, do all the things you want. In ours, it's a lot more limited. We don't do breakfast, nothing like that. I can tell you why. But it's $300 a week. So that's the nice thing. $300 a week, and you stay for a month, it's $1,200. Whereas I think if you stayed a month Airbnb, typical Airbnb, you're not paying $1,200, right? So it's almost like multifamily rental rates with more of a short-term feel. So the reason we don't do breakfast is because the studies show, when you look in the hotel business, if you do breakfast, do breakfast really well. If whatever you do it really well, because the reviews on the website will expose you if you don't. And so we didn't feel like we were going to put any effort into breakfast. And so we just don't do it.
If for those who do it well, are they charging extra for their nightly rates? I would assume to pay for that.
You think, yeah. And you think about the hotels that are really doing it. It's like the Hampton Inn. It's the nice hotels, Holiday
Yeah,
Inns, Hampton Inns. It's not
right.
typically your extended stays.
Amenities, gyms, business centers
Yep.
that
Yep.
to
We put
expect.
that in there. Yep. So gym, business center, you got it. You got to run the numbers and really see if it works for you, because you're essentially taking away a room. And that's what we had to
Right,
do with
square foot.
these. So we took away a room for a conference room, took away a room for a fitness center, because that's what these people want. We've been talking to them about it, and we realized that the numbers work. We would rather have, basically now a 98% occupancy because we took away those two rooms than 70% occupancy because they're like, hey, we don't have the things we need.
Those would have been just vacant rooms if you kept them as rooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Got it. The question was, what's the website again? I think I posted it. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I saw you posted that.
I'll just put it up again. All right. We got 5 minutes, folks. I just wanted to see if there's anyone else with any questions about extended stay or for Kyle in general. John, I see you're on camera.
Yes, sir. I do have a question about the GP and LP for extended stays. So I'm assuming people who come in as LPs, they don't get the benefits of GP. Is that
Correct?
okay?
Yeah. And now us as GPs, we're LPs as well. Every deal that I do, I'm going to be an LP and a GP. I think Dr. Ozoude is the same way. But yeah, with that being said, if you come in as an LP, then you would be a limited partner. Now, do we want to know what the LPs are thinking? Do we want to stay, connected to our LPs? Absolutely. And so, yeah, I shouldn't say, we like having that relationship. We like keeping our limited partners happy. And so coming to them with discussions on what's our next move, things like that, polling them if you need it. But the LPs are not the GPs, no. And I have some LP buddies that are just like, don't talk to me, don't ask me questions, just make me money.
Okay. How does the depreciation work for the extended stays?
So for ours, we just did, so again, we're not taking any fees up front. We're doing a 10% pref equity and then 60-40, 60 to the investors, 40% to the general partners.
No, the depreciation, do you guys own the
Oh,
building?
I'm sorry.
You
Yep.
guys own the buildings and depreciate it over time.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep. So we do the cost segs. Yep. You got it. It tends to do better than multifamily in that regard as well, because all the furniture gets added into the bonus depreciation. So that actually increases that aspect of it. So let's all say our prayers that the 100% bonus depreciation remains.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the question.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for the questions tonight. We're pretty much wrapping up. Kyle, I definitely want to give everyone an opportunity to reach out to you. We have the website up. What about on any other email or social media? How can folks get in contact with you?
Yeah. Social media, Dr. on Instagram. So at Dr. Stephenson. I post my podcast on there, the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. Like George said, I just had him on. My last guest was Dr. Tom Burns, who wrote that book, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. And I had my CEO, Jason Trindade, on a couple podcast episodes ago, who he dives deep into the market, extended stays. He does a good job. So if you really want to learn some more, that's a good place to do it. So that's my podcast. My email, if you want to email me, you can email me at kstephenson, Stephenson, at boardwalksuites.com. I'll answer any questions. Reach out to me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, email me. Yeah. The reason I started the podcast is honestly, I'm learning a ton, and I just want to give back. And I know you're doing a ton of this, George. Give back to the young residents and medical students and try to push them to learn more about this stuff, because we're all helping each other by doing this, and it's advantageous. And I really appreciate you having me on here.
Absolutely. We thank you, Kyle, for your efforts. It's been great to see you continue and grow. And I trust you're going to provide lots of value for years to come. So thanks for your efforts. And then thank everyone else for coming tonight. and we will be back in 2 weeks. Bayo and I will be your guests. So we'll keep it going at this time frame. We're still looking for feedback. We're only in our second month of doing it at this day and this time. So please, we're welcome feedback for how it's going for you guys, how it works out. So thank you again, guys, for joining tonight. I'll let everyone enjoy the rest of their evening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.